how did Jephthah make it in the hall of faith if he sacrificed his daughter and did something that's abhorrent to the Lord? Did Jephthah sacrifice his daughter? That has been a question for centuries. In fact, I believe it's in the City of God where Augustine talked about it as an apologetics issue for the believer to reckon with. Likewise, in another text, he talked about how Jephthah's vow and his actions were not explicitly stated whether they were right or wrong, and that we're to look at biblical law and the text to determine those things. So there's the one view that Jephthah sacrificed his daughter, that do according to his vow was equated with offering her up as a burnt offering. Then there's another view that says, oh, do to her according to her vow. Well, it didn't explicitly say offered her up as a burnt offering. So maybe he didn't offer her up as a burnt offering, but she became a perpetual virgin. So those are the two main views, with both of them having wide support through church history, the Reformation being a high point, it seems, in the text we have for virginity, but some people hold it today. So why would somebody even say that? If we look at the vow, it says a burnt offering. Well, the reason is from biblical theology, kind of like what Augustine was talking about. We know from scripture in the law that offering a human as a sacrifice, especially a child, is an abomination to the Lord and not something the Israelites were allowed to do. So the thought is Jephthah is in the hall of faith. How can somebody in the hall of faith exercise child sacrifice? And then another issue is that the emphasis is on virginity of her and not knowing a man. So perhaps they applied other texts, like in Leviticus, where there's some redemption ideas going on. So maybe she was redeemed monetarily to become a perpetual virgin in the service of the temple or the like. So that's that view. I actually don't think that view is well supported in the text. So I'm going to say that the passage is actually saying that Jephthah did sacrifice his daughter. Then the question is, was he right to do that? Was he obligated to fulfill the vow? Or is there room in the text in the Bible where he wouldn't have to fulfill the vow? And I'm going to actually argue for the latter, that he shouldn't have, but we'll discuss both. So why would he have actually sacrificed her? Well, in the ancient world, the construction of a vow, if you do X, then Y, you fulfill exactly what that Y is. And here, it's offering her as a sacrifice. And I think the text, when you see that he goes into mourning, he tears his clothes, he's very upset. Would that level of upsetness go to the fact that she'd be alive and perpetual virgin? Or why would they have a memorial service yearly for somebody that is a virgin and not died? So I think those are features that suggest that he did offer her. Another area is a scholar had done some work in anthropology and found that in cultures that talked about children dying prematurely, in like tribal type cultures, that they'll often use virgin language. So this would be in keeping with that idea. Now, how do we reconcile the fact that scripture clearly says that you must fulfill vows, whatever comes out of your mouth, and the fact that this is an abomination to the Lord to offer a child sacrifice? Well, I think what we have to do is we have to weigh the laws. Jephthah apparently didn't know the law very well and didn't know that a child sacrifice or human sacrifice would be abhorrent. So he's placing a sin, which is breaking a vow to the Lord, and you do incur guilt. And it's significant, but it's not to the level of abomination where you're shedding innocent blood here and you're killing a human. So, and giving something to the Lord. Does God want you to fulfill a vow of something that he detests? So what are the options? Well, the option for Jephthah could be that he lets the vow fall on himself. So if you don't fulfill a vow, then you incur guilt. So Jephthah could do that. A second feature is that there are texts, and the perpetual virgin's idea holds to this, that talk about in Leviticus that you can redeem. It's not the exact same situation, but there's an idea of, well, there's no law that says do not offer your daughter as a sacrifice, or if you offer your daughter as a sacrifice, do this. Then there's no law for that because the law is don't sacrifice children. So he goes to do that, and there's a law that says, well, there's some redeeming ones. Maybe that could have applied. And I think that's the case because when Saul made an oath and said that whoever ate some meat on this battle day will be put to death, his son, who wasn't there and didn't hear it, actually ate food. He ate some honey, and so he was supposed to die. And what happened? The army ended up redeeming him. There was no law about that, but they came up with it, and that was good. And that's in keeping with the idea of to obey is better than sacrifice. So I think here he should have either had the guilt of the vow fall upon himself rather than an innocent life, his daughter, or secondly, he should have redeemed. And he should have known that, but he seems ignorant of it. Or others, there were 2 months for him to reckon with the law as his daughter is out there mourning. That could have happened. Now, the thorny question is, how did Jephthah make it in the hall of faith if he sacrificed his daughter and did something that's abhorrent to the Lord? Well, I think we can see that that's tricky. But there is something about what is the hall of faith section there about. It talks about those who had faith in the Lord and were mighty in battle and fought well. So there, I think we're looking at huge faith of Jephthah that he could defeat an enemy that had been oppressing for years versus worship practices. They're related ideas, but they don't necessarily overlap entirely, so that you can praise the one without bringing support of the other. And so I believe also looking at how the book of Judges works. The book of Judges has more positive judges at the beginning and talks about the moral and spiritual decline of Israel. So it makes sense here that this is critiquing a spiritual decline on Israel's part and of Jephthah's part. So did he sacrifice his daughter? I would say yes. I think the text indicates that. I think also that he was wrong in doing so, and he should have avoided it.